This is the Cultish Creative YouTube channel. I'm Matt Ziegler. I am doing an album review, something I haven't really done much of before, at least not in video format. I want to talk about the classic album, Songs of Faith and Devotion by Depeche Mode. Yes, great album. Some of you are probably asking, what are you doing? First review, you're diving in on album number 8 from somebody? And I'm going to say, yeah. 1993. I have the tape somewhere, but like the dub tape someone made me. I don't even necessarily own this record properly. Don't tell. Spotify numbers will show otherwise. The first Billboard #1 for the band. Super cool detail. But again, album number 8, 7 records. Number 7, Violator. They started to have commercial success. I think as a young person, this is when they're more formally on my radar. But 93, Songs of Faith and Devotion, that's when this band really starts to land for me. And that's why I want to talk here. Now, music reviews, when you're talking to me, this is the way I talk to my friends about this stuff, so we have to go there. I think about this stuff in the language of music. That's how it makes it interesting. So I want to talk about rhythm, and that's the how swung versus how straight versus how drunken Dilla style something is. Depeche Mode typically are going down that straight route, but they're playing with rhythm in a new way on this album. We'll talk about this. Harmony, and I'm talking about simple versus complex. So is it basically the kid playing the triads on the piano, simple harmony, or is it, I don't know, think McCoy Tyner, jazz piano player of your choice, or classical composition where you have these dense, thickly packed things. Depeche Mode does some really cool stuff with harmony across all their stuff, and a lot of it is because of the next category, melody. Melody's really cool too. That's the way the notes string out over time, and you can think about how simple or complex those melodies are. Again, little kid on the piano, one finger style versus, like John Coltrane going giant steps all over the place. Dynamics. This is volume. This is basically loud and soft, and then critically, the way those things pack next to each other, extra important when we get into 1993. And then this is the key to electronic music. This is my friend Jim taught me this, and I wasn't aware of this until college years. And this is the idea of how frequency plays into this too. And for those of you who don't understand what's kind of a technical term, frequency is the sonic spectrum of stuff, and it describes the way that like a baby cries and it gets straight into your brain. That's one part our own evolution and the baby's cry evolution, but it's another part, a very specifically part on the frequency spectrum. Same thing, the car drives by out of the house and the plates rattle, or you feel the bass from the trunk. That's a frequency thing. Depeche Mode in particular, in electronic music, I think one of the most frequency aware groups. Then that became kind of my main pleasure of listening to them, or one of my big ones. So lyrics also fit in here as a language, but I think of lyrics kind of as this like meta layer. It's a little bit more of an abstract thing, and that's something you work through. So I won't get too much into the lyrics here, but dive in at your own accord. So you press play on this record. First thing you hear is this kind of awful screech sound. The synthetic tire peel out. They're letting you know from the get-go that they're trying to do something different. And as we get into I Feel You, that's the first song, you have a drum sound. So you have a live drum sound, and they've played with this before, and you have a live drum. So Personal Jesus on Violator, there's other examples of this, but now it's turned up to 10 because it's leaving this open space for harmony. I'm gonna get a little bit too into this first track, I think. And what happens is you have this drum sound creating space, you have this guitar riff that's repeating and creating its own space that's layered on top of the drums rhythmically, and that opens the space for melody and harmony. So as you start to hear the vocal come in, you'll notice that it's stacking against those guitar notes, it's stacking against these other things, and that's really informing you that they're not going to be playing by the rules of the prior 7 Depeche Mode albums. They're actually expanding on something, and listen, you do something 7 times in a row, the 8th time in a row, you're going to change it up. I have a lot of respect for that, especially for this. Because what they do next is they start to play the frequency fill-in game, which all prior albums, this is one of my great delights, but they do it in a new way here. So if you listen to about 45 seconds into the song, when sort of this electronic dynamic, they light up the frequency spectrum, and it's kind of like you feel sucked in by the beginning of this thing after that tire screech, and then completely expanded out in the way that the frequencies expand. Go back, listen to it. It's really, really cool. Track number 2, Walking in My Shoes. We talk about the 90s, and just think what else is in the air. It's Nirvana. It's the Pixies version of Nirvana that Nirvana is doing with their loud, soft, loud. what makes Depeche Mode great is not just the sustained simmer that they have. Dave Gahan and Martin Gore are not screamers. That's one thing that's always going to be really cool that they have, the restrained simmer. But then you have the frequency band dynamics. I would argue, and you hear it in Walking in My Shoes, this is the kind of thing where you get the frequency band dynamics doing its own version of Loud Soft Loud that's showing up in the rest of alternative rock at the time. I don't know how aware they were of that they were doing it, but it is truly uniquely felt. Condemnation, I love this song. I always kind of think of this one as Ziggy Stardust sings What It Takes by Aerosmith. I know that's a weird explanation, but that's kind of where it goes for me. I want to point out in Condemnation, when you're playing it, the human voice synth. So this theme of the human voice captured and sampled, then playback for both melodic and harmonic cues, that's going to come back a lot. Also, Condemnation, if you haven't, think about the name of the album, Songs of Faith and Devotion. This is a true album, people. There is a distinct through line from that screech all the way to the closing notes. It's really cool. Condemnation is, I think, the first one where we really feel that dialed all the way up. Mercy in You, this is track 4. Another one. I love that you're just feeling all the influences and trying to be different. I wrote down for myself Voodoo Child slight return, but this is like Voodoo Child slight synthy return. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting on this one. Track 5, Judas. I mean, this one's a movie score. Let's be honest. This belongs in a film. The chorus transition bit, it comes in around like 2 minutes. That sonic texture, one of the coolest friggin' things ever. Again, listen to it from the dynamics inside of the frequency spectrum in particular. Great headphones album for these reasons. Or see it live, see it turned up to 1,000,000. This stuff works really well loud or in headphones. Number 6, In Your Room. Love the fade out round here in that one. I just respect for that one. Number 7, Get Right With Me. The left-right panning here. They're playing with this sonic space again in ways that just you didn't really have the same thing going on in the rest of alternative music. I love the redemptive gospel title feeling of this one. Track 8, Rush. Very contemplative, and again, 9 Inch Nails, Skinny Puppy, Ministry. These are the things that if you were listening to at the time, like I was, you're like, what is this simmered restraint? What is this like de-emphasized thing going on with Depeche Mode? And here it is. And I get it. You're like, well, Trent Reznor's pretty cool and Martin Gore looks funny in those outfits by this age, but you got to get over that. Trust me, I'm telling my past self now, future self, current self, Matt, is like, okay, the outfits are still weird, but the music is really, really cool. Speaking of which, One Caress. Love this song. It's kind of like the Misfits, Eleanor Rigby, Through Their Eyes with strings. Now, one word of warning, how do they do this live? Yikes, it's kind of like S&M Cats karaoke, so just be careful what live version you pick, but beautiful song. If you can ignore the visual performance of it, highly recommend checking out a version of that. Higher Love. Track 10, this is a perfect closer. It is both hypnotic and awake at the same time because of the way, again, it balances that rhythm, harmony, melody, dynamics, the frequency all across the board, and that sonic dissipation at the end. Go back to the screech at the beginning. This is chosen. This is an album with an actual through line, and it leaves that question as it dissipates into those closing notes. Are we redeemed? Like, what is the faith? Do we have that redemption? Have we found it? I find this to be just a profound listen. It's an album that I think it compounds over time and how much it means to me, how much it means in our house. Credit to my wife getting me to throw this one on and really take a deep dive in this. I thought this was going to be a Violator review, but the more I listen to Violator and the more I listen to it in the context the album's couched around it, Depeche Mode, Songs of Faith and Devotion, 1993, it's well worth the time. Think about it on all these levels. Think about their whole catalog on those levels. The rhythm, the harmony, the melody, the dynamics, the frequency, you will see them in a different light. I love it. Cultish Creative on YouTube. This is one of my reviews. Share it with a friend, and I'm out.